If you've been a developer for any length of time, you know Heroku. For years, it was just the easiest way to get an app up and running, no headaches. But its parent company, Salesforce, just dropped some news that, well, sent some serious shockwaves through the community. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Is Heroku on its way out? Salesforce is spinning one story, but industry analysts, they're telling a completely different tale. So what's actually happening? Let's unpack what we know and what it all means for what was, for a long time, one of the most beloved platforms in tech.
Okay, first things first, let's look at the official announcement from Salesforce. They've announced a pretty huge strategic shift for Heroku, and it all comes down to this one very specific, very corporate-sounding phrase.
And this is the headline. Right here, no new customers can sign up for Heroku Enterprise. Now, this is a massive signal about where the platform is going from a business standpoint. Sure, existing customers can renew, but that door for new enterprise growth, it's been slammed shut.
Here's the actual quote from Heroku's Chief Product Officer. Now listen closely to those key words: stability, security, reliability. Notice what's missing? Words like innovation, growth, or new features. This is a very carefully crafted message, and it really sets the tone for everything else.
Right? It sounds kind of positive, sustaining. But in the tech world, that phrase has a very, very specific meaning. It's not about building for the future, it's about holding down the fort. So let's get a really clear definition. To put it bluntly, the platform is in maintenance mode. The whole goal is no longer to roll out cool new stuff, it's just to keep the lights on for the folks who are already there. It's basically life support, not a recipe for growth.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Because while Salesforce is out there talking about stability, the industry analysts are looking at this move and seeing a pattern they've seen a million times before. They think sustaining engineering is really just code for something else.
This quote from analyst Sanchit Virgogia just cuts right through all the corporate jargon. He's saying this isn't a long-term plan for Heroku at all. It's a holding pattern. It's a way for Salesforce to manage the decline and make it easier to either absorb the useful bits of tech or just shut it down later without a huge mess.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, the whole mindset shifts from creating new value to just managing risk. All that buzz and momentum, it just evaporates. Top engineers, partner companies, they start looking for the next big thing. And slowly but surely, the platform just fades into the background. And here's the kicker. Once a product starts down this road, it almost never comes back.
And look, this isn't just a theory. The tech industry has a long and storied history of this exact playbook being used on products that were once giants in their field. Let's just look at a few of them.
This table says it all, doesn't it? IBM's Bluemix, VMware's Pivotal Cloud Foundry, heck, even Adobe Flash and Microsoft Silverlight. They all went through this sustained support phase right before being swallowed up by another product or just retired completely. The track record here is, well, it's not great. This is a managed decline.
So how did we get here?
How did a platform that basically defined easy deployment end up on life support? The answer really is all about a changing cloud landscape and, maybe more importantly, a huge shift in Salesforce's own priorities.
Think back to 2011, when Salesforce bought Heroku. Its value was crystal clear. It made deployment dead simple. But fast forward to today, and the market is packed with smaller, faster competitors like Render and Fly.io. That all-in-one stack that used to be a huge selling point, now it feels a little clunky in a world of specialized cloud services. But honestly, the biggest change is that Salesforce itself is playing a totally different game now. And that's the real crux of it. Salesforce basically outgrew the problem that Heroku was built to solve. Back then, they needed a way to connect with developers. Now, their entire strategy is about huge enterprise deals and owning the AI space. Heroku, as great as it was, just isn't a main character in that story anymore.
Okay, so if you're one of the many people still using Heroku, this all probably sounds pretty alarming. So the big question is, what should you actually do about it? Let's walk through a practical game plan.
You've got this real split, right? On one side, Salesforce is saying, hey, don't worry, everything's fine for existing customers. But on the other side, the analysts are basically sounding the alarm, warning that with no new investment, the long-term risk is huge. Their advice is really clear. Do not build anything new and important on Heroku.
This quote just nails it. The real danger here isn't that Heroku's going to vanish tomorrow. The real danger is complacency. It's doing nothing. Because if you wait, that migration you'll eventually have to do will be 10 times more painful and expensive than if you just start planning for it now.
All right, so here's your 4-step plan.
First, and this is a mental shift, start treating Heroku as legacy tech. That changes everything about how you approach it. Second, you have got to do a full inventory. Map out every single dependency, every data service, every API call. You need to know exactly what you're dealing with. Third, and this is a big one, get your backup situation sorted. Make sure it's routine and automated, not just something you hope is happening. And finally, number 4, start playing with alternatives. Now, not later. Spin up a test project on another platform so you have a viable escape plan ready to go.
So what happens to Heroku itself? Even if the platform we know and love is fading away, its technology still has a ton of value, and its legacy is definitely going to stick around. You have to wonder, right? What happens to all that underlying tech? I mean, Salesforce paid a lot of money for Heroku. They're not just going to let it all go to waste. The most likely outcome is that it gets broken up for parts.
The consensus among analysts seems to be a split. Heroku Postgres, which is a fantastic rock-solid database service, will probably get rolled right into Salesforce's main data cloud product. It's just too valuable to toss. But the compute layer, the famous dynos, that's likely going to be phased out as Salesforce tries to push developers onto its own AI platforms instead.
And really, that's the bottom line. Heroku used to be a star player, a key piece of the Salesforce strategy. Today, it's a legacy asset, a useful one for sure, but it's just not a main character in the company's big, grand story about the future of enterprise AI.
This whole situation leaves you with a much bigger and kind of unsettling question. Heroku is just one company, but this is a story about a massive strategic pivot driven by the AI gold rush. As these giant corporations retool their entire businesses around AI, you have to wonder, which other developer tools that we all use and love are going to be next?